Well, good Sunday evening to you ladies in waiting. It's raining where I am. But hey, I can't study the rain right now. I have a job to do, and that's to meet with my ladies in waiting. We have things to discuss, right? So, again, welcome, welcome. You know what day we're on? Day 5 of our challenge. You made it to day 5. So, again, congratulations. You made up in your mind and you are here. And here what? 2 more days to go. So, you better cross that finish line with me. So, welcome to day 5 of our Ladies in Waiting 7-day challenge. I really want to applaud you for making the decision to get some knowledge, to be trained, to get a new perspective on preparing for marriage. So, congratulate yourself for making this decision. So, if you are on with me on the live, as per usual, just say hello, just say good night so I'll know who's here and I know I have some company tonight. We started on yesterday speaking about character and competency development while you wait. So, yesterday we dealt with character, and tonight we will be dealing with the competency side of things. Yes, I see some of the ladies in waiting on. Good night, Charlene. Good night, Juliet. Good night, Amelia. Thank you for coming on and not jumping in bed and pulling the covers. I know it's very tempting, but thank you, thank you, thank you. So we want to get right into it. I don't want to keep you too long. I know tomorrow is work, so let's get down to business. Good night, Julie. Good to see you tonight. So again, tonight's topic, character and competency development while you wait. We're dealing with the competency side of things tonight. And so, by way of definition, what is a competency? A competency or competencies are knowledge, skills, and abilities and behavior that contribute to performance. I'll read it again. Competencies are the knowledge, 1, skills, 2, and abilities, 3, that contribute to high performance. I think I see Sylvina just popping on. Good night, Sylvina. And so most, if not all of you belong to organizations, and you would have heard this concept of competency or competency development, or you would have heard about having core competencies. And so you're probably scratching your head and thinking, Giselle, are we applying for a job? Because that's the context it's usually used in. When you are applying for a job, the organization has their core competencies that they are looking for in each candidate. And what are they looking for? They're looking to see how you fit in with their organization. Do you have the competencies to add value and to bring expertise to their organization? Remember, ladies in waiting, what do I say all the time? We are thinking. So I hope you're hearing the words I'm using. When an organization is looking to hire someone, they are looking at how you add value. They are looking at how you bring expertise. And how will they know that? By the competencies you possess. If any of you have heard that term or have been in an interview where that term is mentioned, just type me in the comments so I can see that, yeah, you're kind of relating to what I'm saying. Good night, Villette. Welcome. And so we are using this concept of developing competencies for preparation for marriage. Even though you may have never thought that the two could work together, this challenge is about pushing you to think deeper and to really equip you with strategies strategies to prepare well for marriage. So competencies as it relates to preparation for marriage, again, it's the knowledge, it's the skills, and it's the abilities that help someone to high performance. And so let's look at those three words: knowledge, skills, abilities that make up the whole concept of competency. What is knowledge? Knowledge is information developed through learned experience, study, or investigation or research. I posted 2 resource lists for you. And what did I say as I introduced these lists? That every time I coach with ladies, I really encourage them to thirst after knowledge, to expand their knowledge base through the Word of God primarily, as well as additional resources. You have to want to learn more. You don't know everything. I don't know everything. So as you develop, you always have to go after knowledge. So knowledge is acquired through experience. Life is a teacher, and through life's experience you develop knowledge, or by study or by investigation or research, because that's what research is, an investigation. The next word, ability. Ability is innate potential. You ever heard the description? She has the potential to, it's already on the inside. And so what needs to happen? You need to sharpen that potential, or you need to bring it out, because sometimes we don't even know we have the ability or the potential inside of us, yeah, until someone recognizes that ability and brings it out. So I hope bells are already going out from last night's or the night before our discussion on needing a midwife. A midwife is that person to do what? Recognize the abilities inside of you and bring it out, because they are coming alongside of you. Again, I'm hoping you're seeing the connection on every night. And lastly, skill. What is skill? Skill is the result of repeatedly applying both knowledge and ability. So let's center ourselves a bit. We're talking about developing competencies. Competencies is knowledge, skill, and ability working together, resulting in an individual operating at a high level of performance. Knowledge gained by experience or by study, ability, what is already inside of you, and skill. Skill only comes about by repeatedly applying both knowledge and ability. Sometimes we operate in silos. We feel, okay, we can only operate by knowledge, your experience, and what you learn through research. Or sometimes we feel we can only operate with ability, which is your innate abilities already inside of you, your innate potential. Or sometimes we feel, okay, I have skill in this area, I can just wing it. But I want to suggest to you tonight, in preparing for marriage, you have to understand the holistic view of having a competency and developing a competency by working all 3 components: knowledge, ability, and skill, which is consistently applying the application of both knowledge and ability. Many times we fall short because why? We are not consistently applying what we learn. We are not consistently applying what we glean through our experience. We are not consistently applying or exposing our ability through the process of refinement so that it can come out and we can then apply it to our present context. I'll just let that settle for a bit. Stay with me. And so if you are described as being competent in an area, again, our reference point, think about our jobs, and someone describes you, Juliet, as being very competent in this area, let's say of administration. You know, Juliet is very competent. What they are saying is that you operate at a high level of performance in all three areas: knowledge, ability, and skill. You consistently apply what you know. And so again, we are saying the same thing. In order to operate at a high level of performance in marriage, the desired state that we want to get into, we have to develop competencies. Making sense? I ask all my ladies. It's either it's making sense or it's not. And to me, it makes sense. And so, as a single lady, in this period of singleness, you should be developing your core competencies. We're using the terminology where you should be developing your core competencies for marriage. So, what core competencies should you be focusing on? That's the next question. What type of competency should you be developing? Do I already possess some competencies? And usually, again, going back to our reference point of the job market, working within an organization, everyone comes with competencies. And the key is to see which one of these competencies fit my organization. And so I'm not saying that you are void of any competencies. My suggestion to you is that you should be using this time to develop what you already have, to see the gaps, meaning what you don't possess, and acquire those competencies and continue to develop them for the intent, purpose of operating at a high level of performance in marriage. Remember last time we spoke about character and we used the example of Boaz and Ruth. And what was the phrase I kept repeating? Good character attracts good character. Yeah? So again, thinking about Boaz and Ruth, this time in the context of competencies, if Ruth is preparing, or if she knew that she was preparing for the type of husband as Boaz was, what kind of competencies do you think that she needed to already possess, that she needed to have going into this? I want you to start thinking about that because I'll come back to that question in a bit. And so you need to understand or try to identify what competencies you should be developing right now. And I'll just touch on about 3 in the time that we have. The first competency that you should be focusing on developing right now is your analytical thinking / decision making. So again, it's sounding very similar to last evening. It's a lot of self-analysis and you being honest with yourself and saying, you know what, I need to work on this area. Giselle, yeah. Giselle, I need to work on this area. Maybe I have not been consistent in working on this particular area. So I need to shine the torchlight on this area again. Giselle, yeah. I agree. So the first example of a competency that you should be focusing on developing in this period that you are in is your analytical thinking and decision-making competency. How do you analyze situations? What formulas do you use to analyze the situations? Then come to a decision, then suggest a course of action. Again, marriage is not a fairy tale, and successful marriages thrive on two people being able to analyze situations and come to the best decision for their families. And so you could imagine if you already operate at a high level of performance in terms of analyzing situation, in terms of your decision making, you already ahead of the game. So when X joins Y, just think, wow. And we know, and this is for another challenge, but sometimes no two people are always on the same level. And so let's just say he is not at that level of performance in terms of analytical thinking and decision making. That's why in the two becoming one, you could lead the way and you could teach in terms of making decisions. Yeah? So you see how this thing in terms of preparing ahead of time and preparing well, it will unfold into the marriage. How do you make decisions currently for your life? In Trinidad, we have a term we use. Do you make decisions by VAPs? You get up this morning and you catch a VAPs and you go with that VAPs. If you're on this live and if you're catching the replay and right now you make decisions for your life by VAPs, I would humbly suggest to you that that's a competency that you need to focus on and you need to develop. Because no sound marriage operates by VAPsish, quote unquote, decision making. You will not feel safe. You will not be secure. If every Monday morning, again, a term we use in Trinidad, as we say, you get a VAPS, the family will be like this, and you will be, oh my God. But if you are like that as a single person, it's not going to be magic that you automatically start becoming an analytical thinker and a sound decision maker. No, it starts now from developing that competency. And the practice run is right now as you are single. Believe me, I know. And sound decision making and analytical thinking unfolds into other competencies like financial management. Do I need to buy that next pair of shoes? Deferred gratification or take it now? I'm watching up because, I'm speaking, to me too. So developing this competency puts you ahead of the game. A second competency, an example, and remember this is not an exhaustive list, I'm just throwing these examples at you. Effective communication skills. Again, throw your mind back to your jobs when you're going for that interview. You may have heard that this is a core competency that they look for. How effectively do you communicate? Those of you who are in managerial positions, one of the criteria for ascending to that position is you are an effective communicator. You represent your organization well by communicating the dictates of your organization. So if you are familiar with a competency in that context, think of developing and focusing that competency as you prepare for marriage. Have you thought about your language in communicating? Now, everybody thinks they communicate well, but I can only speak to my experience. I believed I was an accomplished orator, but when it came down to communication in marriage, I realized I didn't cut the grade at all. And I had to learn effective communication. I had to work on that competency. And can I be honest? I'm still working on that competency because I felt, remember a few sessions ago, I described, how I felt when I spoke about the pride. I'm a boss. I got this. I communicate at high levels, high level meetings. I speak to other bosses. I can communicate. Different context, different situation. Application of this competency, totally a different ball game. And so I had to learn again how to communicate in this context. And so I had to develop the competency of how to communicate in marriage, how to communicate to a spouse, how to communicate to the male mind. So understanding language, understanding uses of language, understanding expression. In the resource lists that I posted, one book that everybody should read, The 5 Love Languages, helped in me understanding and developing my competency of communication. Because as I became aware of my love language, and as I also became aware of his love language, I was able to now effectively, you see, words are important. You can communicate, but are you effectively communicating? And so, feeling that you are a good communicator in one context, as I felt, didn't necessarily translate into the marriage context. And so I had to develop that competency. A part of communication is listening. Do you listen well right now? Generally. Or do you listen just to respond? We know the concept of active listening. Is that a competency you possess? Do you operate at a high level in terms of active listening? It's a very needed competency in terms of communication within marriage. So now it's the time to develop that competency. And the third competency I just want to speak to you tonight about is conflict resolution. Again, we've probably heard about that before. But are you actively developing this competency in terms of how would I deal with situations? How will I resolve disputes in my marriage? Currently, presently, right now, in your relations with anyone, your family, your co-workers, how would you describe yourself as to deal with disputes and conflict resolution? This is one of the key ones, if not one on the high list of core competencies to develop as you prepare for marriage, knowing how to deal with disputes and how to resolve disputes. And you know what? Remember I said the three tenets: knowledge, ability, and skills. In my younger days, I think I had just graduated from UWI, and you know, the OJT program for UWI graduates, and I worked at the Ministry of Labor in the resolution department, I think it was called. It was the legal arm of the ministry that dealt with trade unions when they came to have their disputes, and there was a department that dealt with these disputes. You would have to come and listen to the both sides and then give a ruling, and it's that ruling from the Ministry of Labor that they would then take to the CPO, and continue their negotiations. And so we would be going through the law concerning the different areas of these disputes. But then one day we were told that we were going to start having practical experience, meaning go sit in the meeting and listen to trade unions give their sides. And then, of course, we wouldn't be giving the judgments, the lawyer would be, but we would be there observing. And you know what? I remember that experience in my preparation. And I picked up on that experience and realized that that is a competency that I needed to develop if I'm thinking about marriage. So I remembered what I did and what I learned from listening to a dispute and how it was resolved and the suggestions made. And so that's why I could suggest to you tonight that this is a much needed competency that you need to focus on as you prepare. How do you handle disputes? And again, it's still a work in progress. But I understand that I have to continually apply my knowledge, apply the innate ability, and consistently practice these things in terms of disputes and conflict resolution. How do you handle disputes right now? Do you fly off the deep end and that's your way? For those of you who have walked this way before, how did you handle disputes? Remember, you're sharpening your skills, yeah? And so if it's something that you have to go back and look at, then hey, do that. That's why you came on this challenge. So as I mentioned Boaz and Ruth, and in the last few minutes we have, again, I'm hoping that you would have listened to the session, those of you who didn't catch the live, so we knew what kind of man Boaz was. And so I want to give you a quick scenario. Ruth, in terms of developing competencies to marry a man like Boaz, what can you suggest would be a competency that Ruth should possess? Again, we know the description of Boaz, we heard it. And we're talking about competencies tonight for marriage, for successful marriage. And Ruth, as a young woman, and eventually she married Boaz. So let's pretend that she knew that she would have married Boaz. And she had a period of competency development. Could I see in the comments, anybody, just suggest to me, what competencies do you think Ruth, if she went to a challenge like you are on, and she then said, okay, I need to start working on my core competencies, what would be the ones that she would focus on? Could be the ones that you heard tonight. But think about it. Think about the type of man Boaz was, and what type of competencies would Ruth need to be successful, a successful wife in that marriage. So I'll give you about 2 minutes to think and just start putting in the comments. What competencies do you think that she should develop? Let me see. And it's not about being right or wrong. It's just processing the scenario and giving some suggestions. So let me see if anybody would suggest some competencies that you think Ruth would have developed if she were in your position right now. So again, by reminder, Boaz was a noble man, a man of good reputation. Okay, I'm seeing some competencies coming in. She had to be diligent. Good, Stacy. I like that one. And I'm asking this so remember, everyone is seeing this response. So as you are taking your notes, you are assessing yourself. Are you diligent? I'm seeing Natasha, caring. Caring is a competency. Kindness, caring. Yes, that's good, because a part of effective communication is empathy. And believe you me, that's one competency I struggled with, and I still struggle with, but it's one that is necessary. So caring is good. Yes, Sylvina, caring again. So if you're making a list of core competencies, yeah, I missed that one. Thanks, Stacey. Team player. Being a team player is a competency that is important. You can't be a lone ranger. Yeah? It's no longer me, but we. Any more? You have about 2 more minutes. I want to see if I could get some more from you. What again? So these are good ones. Thanks, ladies. So again, diligence, being a team player. We have 2 for caring. Any more? Humility. Thanks, Onika. Humility, yep, is a competency. Honesty, yes. Honesty is a competency. I see, Charlene, financial management and resourcefulness. I like those 2 because, again, thinking about the man Boaz was, he had money. Yeah? And you don't want, as a husband, to know that your wife is spending your money on the latest whatever and is not appropriating and managing the funds of the home well. So ladies in waiting, if you know you're still a little loose in spending, you need to address that and start to equip yourself with tools for properly and expertly managing your finance. And resourcefulness is a bit different, similar, but different. You have to be able now to get money and get resources, yes? So if, for example, somebody or the husband loses his job in the home, so you would just say, well, I didn't sign up for this. No, resourcefulness, that competency kicks in, and you now will start to say, okay, we could do this. I could make real good sweet bread, we could sell that and become a resource connector for your home. I like that. Very good. Knowledgeable, yes. A wise woman. We're not talking about degrees here. Let me just make that clear. You're knowledgeable. You're thirsting after knowledge and you're applying the knowledge. Very good, Juliet. Villette, what do you mean by matters of the court? Explain that a little bit. Like practices of a person so you mean knowledgeable of the state? Okay, so you know the level of operation. So for example, if your husband is a minister, you would be able to behave and properly and appropriately. Is that what you mean, Villette? Let me know how to conduct yourself. Okay, thank you. Yeah, you have to know how to conduct yourself. No one and everyone wasn't born in the Queen's palace. But again, that's through knowledge and a thirst for knowledge. You have to be able to educate yourself, yeah, and conduct yourself accordingly. Let me see if I missed anything. Discerning, yeah, and that goes on the spiritual side of some spiritual competencies that you need as a wife. Do you practice discernment? And that's a whole lesson in itself. But discernment comes out of you spending time in God's presence. And again, as I said, learning to hear the voice of God. When you learn to hear the voice of God first, you see differently, and that's the discernment, seeing and hearing, yeah, and then you speak. You are slow to speak, and when you speak, it's because God instructs you, okay, speak now, yeah. All of these competencies you need to learn. Yes, Natasha, yes. So I think complimenting him is similar to Billet's suggestion, knowing how to conduct yourself accordingly. So these are excellent suggestions of competencies that you need to start developing. So you know what, ladies in waiting? Start developing those competencies. Even though you may possess some of them already, you need to continue to work them, because remember the definition, high level of performance. You need to get to operating at a high level of performance. Because again, going back to the organization, when it comes to your performance appraisal, you usually have a rank in terms of the competencies. And when they're ranking you and grading you on how you're operating at this level, yeah, you may have the competency, but it's the operation, what level you're operating at, is important to know if you're really developing or there has been growth within the last year. So if last year in the organization, in terms of what team player, yeah, you operated at a 5, and this year you come back for performance appraisal and you're still at a 5, you will know that should be an indicator to you that there hasn't been real growth in that competency. And then what a good manager will do, they will get a plan in place for you to develop that competency. Agreed? Yeah, we know that part of it. Think about it in the same line. So if you assess yourself and you realize, you know, I really am good at this financial management thing, right now, I will give myself a 3. Start working on that, yes? So that when you enter into that next season, you're operating at a high level of performance. And so it's only up to go there. You're not getting there, realizing you're at a 3, and then have to start learning. Nah, man, makes no sense. Yeah? So that's all. Execution is important. Yes, yeah? So when you get there, it's only to execute. And I'm glad Julie mentioned that, because one of the definitions and the explanation of what a competency is and the purpose of focusing on competencies, 2 things, is that it adds value, yeah, and 2, it puts you ahead of the competition. So when organizations are hiring you and they're looking at the core competencies that you possess, they are looking to see how you add value to their organization, and secondly, they're looking to see how you can help put them ahead of the competition. So ladies, as I keep saying all the time, think. So if you possess these competencies, it can only do the same thing, which is you add value to any marriage union, yes, and hello, it puts you ahead of the competition. Ding, 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 ding. Remember, Boaz recognized these character traits and these competencies in Ruth. So when the man of God is looking, he has to recognize these character traits in you and these competencies that you already possess. And so his conclusion will be, she is going to add value to my life. And hello, it puts you ahead of the competition. Strategy, ladies in waiting. So we want to end on that note. You have to do the work, yes, but there is a payoff in the end. Amen. I like the letters laughing. Yes, girls. Sense. So, ladies in waiting, use this time to develop your core competencies. Understand that it's going to give you a strategic advantage that is going to add value to any marriage union. It's going to put you ahead of the competition. And remember, in our first session, when you present yourself, oh my, what a book is going to be presented. Amen. So thank you for joining me on the live, ladies. Thank you for engaging. Thank you for answering the question. 2 more days, lady. Tell yourself, 2 more days. I'm going to cross that finish line with Giselle. So see you tomorrow, 9 p.m. Have a great work day tomorrow or whatever else you have planned to do. God bless you. Bye.